In fact, old school leadership was the same way. It was this idea of because you were the person in power and you had the loudest voice, you could push people to your side. Hey everybody, Pierre, Quinn here, and I teach leaders like you how to courageously begin the journey to personal and professional transformation. And in this video, I'm reminding you that we're all in sales. So let's go. I just finished reading the book To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink, and only a few paragraphs in, I had to completely agree with what Daniel was suggesting. I put a link to the book in the description box so that you can check out To Sell is Human for yourself. Now, Daniel Pink argues that there are two categories of selling. One is traditional sales, and then the other is non-sales selling. And based on reading the book, I'm convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that every single leader is involved in non-sales selling. Now, if you happen to be an entrepreneur, you're involved in traditional selling as well. And I know for a lot of us, the idea of traditional selling is icky, it's gross. Maybe we don't have a great relationship with money. Maybe we come from a frame of reference that taught us it wasn't okay to promote ourselves. Whatever it is, sometimes it makes the idea of selling difficult. But if you're gonna have any success as an entrepreneur, you have to master the art of selling. Now, some of you are saying, Pierre, that's cool. I get it. It makes sense. If you're an entrepreneur, you got to move a good, a product, or service. But I'm not in that space. I'm a senior director. I'm a project manager. I sit in the C-suite. What do you mean all leaders are in sales? So in the book, Daniel Pink argues that non-sales selling is really the art of moving people. And every single day, we work at moving people to make one decision or another. We have this experience when it's time for dinner and you're trying to get your kids to make a decision. You have this experience when you're sitting down and trying to figure out where you're going for vacation. You're having this experience whenever there's time for a budget meeting and you're trying to figure out how your organization is going to allocate resources for the upcoming year. Nearly every interaction that we have every single day is focused on how to move people. And Daniel Pink argues that the most successful people today in traditional sales and the ones who are most successful in non-sales selling have mastered what he calls the new ABCs. So let's break down the new ABCs. A has to do with attunement. And attunement is all about getting in a harmony with someone else. It's the willingness, it's the ability to see things from someone else's perspective. Now, in the old days of sales, the salesperson would come with a briefcase, with a nice suit, with a flashy personality. They would overwhelm you with their presentation. They would overwhelm you with their charisma, and they didn't really care the side that you were coming from. In fact, old school leadership was the same way. It was this idea of because you were the person in power and you had the loudest voice, you could push people to your side. Now, I know a lot of people still do that today, but in the organizations where the leaders have the most success, they master the art of attunement. They know what it's like to take a few moments and see things from another perspective, to see things from a different point of view. One of the common complaints that people have about their leaders is that they feel like their leaders forget what it was like to be in their space. They forget what it was like to manage multiple contracts and responsibilities. They forget what it was like to be in a middle management role. They forget what it was like to be on the job for the first time and getting used to the culture of the organization. When leaders forget where they came from, when leaders forget how life used to be, and when leaders forget that they had to do some climbing themselves, it often leads to disconnected decisions. So if you want to be a much better leader, you need to practice the art of attunement. Now, the B has to do with buoyancy. And it's this idea of how do you stay afloat? Because as a leader, every decision that you make is not going to be liked. Every decision you make is not going to be celebrated. In fact, a lot of people are going to push back, flat out push back against some of the decisions that you make. The question remains, as a leader, how do you stay afloat when you know you're going to have difficult days? For this, Daniel Pink employs what I call the Bob the Builder strategy. Now, Bob the Builder was all things construction and repair. And whenever Bob started a new project, he started with this question.
Bob the Builder. Can we fix it? Bob the Builder. Yes, we can.
Can we fix it? The response was always, yes, we can. Now, here's why this question is so important. There are times when we want to attack things with just raw motivation. And most of the time, raw motivation is not enough to get us through a difficulty or a challenge. By posing the question, can we fix it? Can we do it? Can we achieve it? The question necessitates a response that's qualified. A question that comes along with tactics and strategy. I convinced my board that this is the right decision for us to take. Yes, I can. And I do that by remembering that Jane is always going to ask about the facts. Bob is always going to ask how this is good for everyone in the organization. Derek is always going to ask, what's the exciting part? And Jerome wants to know the part that he can lead. And the better my response to all four of these people on my team, the better I'll be able to convince them that this is the right thing to do. By posing this question, can we do it? Can we fix it? Can we build it? Can we start it? Can we achieve it? You force yourself to think of the strategies and the tactics necessary to get it done. Now, C is all about clarity. And in this day and age, there's so much knowledge going around. In fact, there really isn't a lack of knowledge per se. With just a simple Google search in less than 4 seconds, you can have access to millions of pages littered with the information that you need. That's why it's so important for leaders today to have a sense of clarity. With all of the information, with all of the perspectives, with all of the knowledge out there, great leaders know how to clarify the information. They know how to curate the content and present it in a way to get people what they need. Now, before, it wasn't always like that. You were the smartest person in the room. You had all the access. You had all the knowledge. You knew the secret PDFs to download. But today, everyone has access to information. In fact, many of the people that you work with, many of the people that you're trying to move will have more information than you do when you come to the meeting, when you present the program, when you're wrestling with the idea. But as a leader, it's important for you to be able to clarify that information so that they can make the right decision. Now, we're all in sales. We're not all selling a program, but we are in the business of moving people. And in order for us to move people, in order for us to take our people from one place to another, we have to be better at attunement, we have to be better at buoyancy, and we have to be better at clarity. So for you, in your leadership journey, which one are you struggling the most with right now? Are you struggling the most with attunement, seeing things from someone else's perspective? Are you struggling the most with buoyancy, bouncing back after there's been some pushback to your ideas? Or are you struggling the most with clarity? Let me know in the comments which one you're struggling with the most and what your plan is to be better in those areas. And don't forget the Bob the Builder strategy.